Ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert G. Schock. He's an Oakland medical malpractice lawyer for a long time, actually, and he's on 1970 Broadway. Bob, you just won a major case. Tell us about it.
Basically, it's a very simple case. It's a story of a young child, 7 years old, who fell off monkey bars and went to the emergency department at Sutter Solano Hospital, where she was not treated properly. The doctors didn't know what the other doctors were doing and ended up sending her home, so that she has ended up with having a restricted use of her left arm for the rest of her life.
So that's interesting. Go on.
No, just basically she had a dislocated left elbow that was not diagnosed properly, even though they suspected there was a displacement of the elbow with a fracture, but they didn't do anything about it, so by the time it was eventually picked up, it was too late. The doctors were clear that if it's not reduced within 48 to 72 hours, there'll be permanent damage. That was the case here. She actually, unfortunately, fell between the whatever you want to call it, because they should have had this thing picked up. They should have known, and they should have taken additional x-rays and got her to an orthopedist, and she would not have had any residual problems.
When you were talking, you said that 95% of cases of this type are generally run by the doctors.
That's correct.
Why did you win?
Basically, I had a good client and what I thought was a good case. In spite of that fact, the offer was very small. It was in the low 5 figures, and as you can see, the resultant verdict that a jury came up with was $862,000, which is basically what I had asked the jury for under a specific scenario. So they were very clear in talking with them after the verdict that they felt that she deserved decent medical care at that hospital and did not receive it. No one would want their child to go to that hospital with an elbow injury and have her or him sent home for a week or 10 days when they knew that there was a potential chance that she was going to have a permanent problem. Because her left arm, which is her minor arm, is restricted to 45 degrees movement of the elbow.
Can you show us what that looks like?
Basically, it's just about to there.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh.
You can adjust a little bit with your shoulder, but still, that takes her out.
So 90 degrees would be what? Like?
Probably here.
Wow.
Then 180.
Huh.
270, and if I could ever do it,
360.
No one has a 360. Well, unless you double.
Except Danny the rubber boy, but anyway.
Somebody like that. So basically, it puts her. She is probably not going to graduate from high school, or she couldn't get out of high school, but she won't make the exit exam based on all of her studies. So she'll be relegated to the lowest level of employment, which normally the average is about $8.75 an hour. But she also had a chance of getting into the lower industrial or construction type of work, not the skilled, but something that would pay her a lot more money. So basically she lost over $1 million in income because of her inability to do those jobs, because she can't do them. The present value comes down to $471,000 under that scenario. So basically what this award did was pay her back for what was taken away from her, her right to work and earn a decent income. Secondarily, she was given money for pain and suffering, which was very small and is actually, because of micro, going to be reduced to $250,000, because under micro that's the maximum amount of money that someone can get for pain and suffering. Take away somewhat. Micro is the Medical Insurance Reform Act. It started in 1975, 1976, puts limits on what an attorney can charge, which is why many attorneys will not take medical malpractice cases, because they're too expensive to handle. We probably have $60,000 to $70,000 into the case with our experts, and to prepare it properly and give this young lady a chance to get a recovery. The doctors have top-notch attorneys. They obviously are top-notch because there's a lot of money involved, and they do everything they can to win the cases legitimately. So you're always up against a very tough, united front from the hospitals and the doctors. So this was an exception because of the fact that I think the jury used their common sense, and that You have a child going to the hospital, they can't make good x-rays because the child doesn't want to move an arm that's been injured. They better make sure they get enough x-rays to make an adequate diagnosis. And what's interesting is throughout the full emergency room records, which are about 7 pages, the emergency room doctor who was in charge of her case, and the only doctor, medical doctor, in the emergency room department, never entered a written word other than his signature for a prescription. Was not involved in any of the treatment, did not even see the child, which is kind of,
And this is
not kind of,
negligence?
which is horrible.
Negligence, yes?
That's total negligence. That was our contention, and that's what the jury felt.
What is it that if a person's watching this video and they want to know how to avoid such situations, what should they do?
Insist on an adequate examination, and if you're not satisfied with it, go someplace else. If you've got someone who's hurting, you want someone who is a devil's advocate and looks for all the possible horrible results that could happen so they can rule those out. So when you leave that hospital emergency room, you know that all of those bad things are ruled out. That wasn't done in this case. And both parents came, picked the girl up, got her to the hospital immediately. She fell off the monkey bars. Got her to the hospital, and they deserve better. And their daughter deserved much better.
Now,
Didn't.
talk about you. How did you get started in law? And I know that you've been a long time participant in the Oakland legal scene. But for the people watching the video, tell them about yourself.
Well, just basically when I got out of law school from Hastings back in 1965 and started work, I was a defense attorney for a couple of years, and then I switched sides because I much more liked to work for people, individuals who were injured. And I loved the medical field. Not to say that I wanted to go to medical school, but I did love the medical, the analysis of the medicine and so forth, and my dad was a doctor. So I just kind of fell into it, and people asked me to do their malpractice work, which I started doing in the early 70s and continued to do so. I do other areas of law and other types of cases, but I, love to do medical malpractice because when I'm successful in settling or obtaining a verdict for somebody, it really is important knowing that the statistics are so low, and the inability of people to get decent attorneys is it's very hard in most cases, and we have to be very careful in the cases that we take, because we take a case like this that I felt was a good case because she deserved money because they didn't do what they were supposed to do, yet they don't offer any money. They force us to go through a full trial, and they produce 3 experts who all testify that everything was done properly. It doesn't make any difference that each of the experts knew one of the doctors, but which is kind of interesting, but they try and out-expert you by trying to produce top-notch experts who are willing to testify on behalf of other doctors that there's no malpractice. So you really have to convince a jury that those experts are not really true experts. They are paid guns, hired guns for the defense to get them off the hook.
So this is basically overcoming the system in a way, or
Absolutely. You know, just like she fell through through the, like I said it before, the loops or whatever you want to call it, the holes, because your hospital system today has an emergency department that is a separate group of doctors, maybe from a company like this is Team something, where they have hundreds of doctors throughout the state. So that's the emergency department. Then you have Bay Radiology, which is a separate radiology department at that hospital. It's not the hospitals. Then you have tech people that are working for the hospital. So you've got all sorts of people there, but they're not under one arm. There isn't one person that made that decision that let's look at the x-rays, let's look at the exam, have we done everything necessary? And that's what happens when you have all these different groups instead of a coordinated activity. So the system needs to be changed in that respect.
How does a person get in contact with you?
You can either see me on my emails or on my webpage, or you can give us a call.
Phone number?
Phone number is, Oakland phone number is 510-839-7722.
Right.
And accessible online at legalpros.org.
And you're also one of a member of the California Trial Lawyers Association, yes?
That's the standard. When I'm a member of the American Board of Professional Liability Attorneys, the American Trial Lawyers Association that just changed their name to Association of Counsel, it's AA something or other, and the former CTLA, which is California Trial Lawyers, which is now Consumer Attorneys of California. And I'm also a member of the Alameda Contra Costa County Trial Lawyers Association, the plaintiff's bar in Alameda and Contra Costa County, and am a former president.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.